All right, you want to start this so we can talk about suicide?
Yeah, man, I've been having a blast.
It's only downhill from here. Okay, we're recording. Here we go. Ready?
Yep.
Hey, what's up, America? Hey, welcome to Goodnight America. I'm America's sweetheart, Eric Ryan. What we do on the show, and I don't need to tell you this because it's the biggest goddamn thing on the internet, but we talk to the world's greatest, the world's greatest authors. And today is no different. Today we have on Frank King. Let me tell you about Frank King. He was a writer for The Tonight Show for 20 years. He's been a speaker on suicide prevention and a comedian for 37 years. He's given 13 TEDx talks on mental health, and he's come close enough to killing himself that he can tell you what the barrel of a gun tastes like. I bet it tastes like freedom. He's also the co-author of a series of books about men's mental health called Guts, Grit in the Grind, a mental mechanics manual. You are the mental health comedian, Frank. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Excuse me.
This is fitting, I think, because it's Mental Health Awareness Month. Did you know that?
That's correct.
Until this piece of shit administration does away with this too. But here we are.
Yeah, I think the rates may go up here since January 20th.
Well, I'm thinking about it. Just kidding. We can't make fun of this. Well, listen, you're here. I think you can make fun of the thing as long as you have an expert in the room. And I know you're not a suicide doctor, but you've spoken enough about it that I think you're an expert. Yes?
Yes, matter of fact, I got busted by a psychiatrist after a speech once. He goes, "What qualifies you to talk about suicide prevention? You're not a psychiatrist. You're not a psychologist." I said, "Well, I can tell you what the barrel of my gun tastes like." And in the silence that followed, I said, "Look, Chief, I can go to college. I can learn everything, absolutely everything you know. You will never know everything I know. That's what qualifies me to talk about."
Okay, good, because I have a lot of questions on this subject. I'm going to start with one that's going to seem like it's acrimonious, but it's not. I just want to wrap my head around this. So I watched a bunch of your TED Talks.
Yeah.
And you use this line that says, normies just don't understand. And I think what you're talking about is that normal people don't understand suicidal ideation, right?
Yes.
So, and I don't mean this to be confrontational. I find that a little bit dismissive only because of your own case. So you say, and I'm not saying you say like you say, I'm just saying you've said that you have a genetic predisposition towards suicide because you lost your grandmother and your great aunt. Is that right?
Yep.
To suicide? Okay. But what I find interesting is that when you did taste the barrel of your gun, it was because you had lost everything that you had built up over 25 years, that you had to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy or whatever chapter it was, that you had a wife and that you had a $1 million life insurance policy that you were 2 months away from being able to cash in on if you killed yourself, right?
Yes.
Okay. So to me, if I don't have suicidal ideation, I don't think I have a genetic predisposition towards suicide. But if I had built something over 25 years, I lost it all. I'm broke now, and we live in a society where we're constantly under pressure to be capitalists. Our wealth is tied to, our self-worth is tied to our wealth. If I had lost it all and I could cash out $1 million, give it to my wife, I don't, it's logical. You know what I mean? I think a normie could come to the same sort of conclusion. You know what I'm saying? Does that argument make sense?
Yes. And the suicidality it's like a three-legged stool. One leg is you've decided you can do it. You've crossed that barrier. Humans have an amazing drive to survive, even as infants, to live. So you've crossed that barrier. Second, generally people isolate socially. They withdraw, they move, they go off social media. They don't, And the third one is burdensomeness. You feel like you're a burden to the world, that the world would be better off without you. And misconception normies have oftentimes is that it's a selfish act. Well, from the outside looking in, it's terribly selfish. But from the inside looking out, you feel I felt the world would be a better place without me in specific because I was worth more dead than alive to my wife. She'd be brokenhearted, but she'd no longer be broke.
Yeah.
So I was going to kill myself selfless. I was going to kill myself to have her, restore her financially. So it appears from the outside very selfish, and it is, from the outside, there's a lot of collateral damage. But from the inside, I tell parents when you're talking to your child if they're depressed and suicidal, don't tell them you've got so much to live for. That's not going to put a dent in it. Tell them this, honey, I know it's probably crossed your mind that you're a burden to your dad and me, and that we'd be better off somehow without you. Well, in no uncertain terms, are you a burden? And in no uncertain terms, would we ever be better off without you? That's burdensomeness. That's it wasn't the capitalism. It wasn't the stigma of losing everything. It was crushing my wife, and I could fix it.
Yeah.
Although,
see?
yeah,
you just proved that normies just don't understand. But again, I think I've worked this phrase into every episode of the show. I think humans are binary absolutists. So we want to say that suicide has like there's one core thing. But have you read what David Foster Wallace says in Infinite Jest about suicide? Do you know his general thing? He says, I'm paraphrasing here, I could read it, but every time I try to read on the show, I come across as an idiot. The idea is that he's saying that suicidal people, he equates it to being in a burning building, to being on a high floor in a burning building. You don't want to necessarily jump, but you're in so much pain that you just need to stop. So he doesn't want to burn to death. He doesn't necessarily want to jump. He just wants the pain to end. I think that's probably reasonable, or you tell me.
Yes, it is. It is reasonable and true most of the time. I think most people who die by suicide don't want to die. I didn't want to die. I just wanted to end the pain. And that's another misconception I think that a lot of normies have, because my friends come to me after somebody famous dies, Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade, and they go, why would someone who has everything to live for want to kill themselves? Well, the truth is, chances are they didn't want to kill themselves. They just wanted to end the pain.
Yeah. I think David Foster Wallace's point is that there's no good options here. They're both awful options. One just seems, I don't know, quicker and less painful, perhaps.
Yeah, and there are different ways to die. I had a really good friend who got fired from a job and was staying in a hotel and was on the 10th floor and decided to jump. And that would not be my choice, because you got a lot of time to think about what you just did on the way down.
Yeah.
So
also,
yeah.
I'm afraid of heights. I don't want to make light of this subject, but have you Nicolas Cage in Leaving Las Vegas? I think he drank himself to death. I think that would be a nice. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't feel great. The hangovers must be awful. But if you drink in the morning, if you never stop being drunk, I think that's a way to avoid a hangover.
Yes, absolutely. It's and it is possible to die by suicide slowly. My mom smoked 3 packs of Marlboros a day and drank, and it was like 2 freight trains headed toward one another on the same track. I think she killed herself slowly.
How old was she when she died, if you don't mind me asking?
62.
Oh, that's too young. Yeah, you gotta back off the packs a little bit. If that was like 82, then you'd be like, it's reasonable. But no, that's 62 is too young. So when I was going through this, like, what is normal debate in my head, I started to look at high level numbers when it comes to suicide, sort of globally and more specifically in the United States. So worldwide, this is according to the internet, which, as you know, can be trusted 100% of the time.
Absolutely.
740,000 people kill themselves worldwide. In the United States, I know you've quoted this, it's about 48,000 people. Yeah.
2022, 49 and change.
Okay, that's a lot. So I wanted perspective. So cancer kills about 611,000 people a year. Car accidents are 42,000 a year. Suicide doesn't crack the top 10 causes of death, but it certainly cracks the top 20. These are a lot of people. And then if you dig further down, if you look at generational suicide rates, it tends to be the boomers, right? Veterans have a much higher suicide rate than the standard population.
Yes.
It seems to be rising in older women. So are these numbers that you talk about all the time when you give talks on suicide? Like, what is it your personal story more, or do you go larger with the talks?
No, just I think the only number I give when I do a talk is the latest annual 49,000 and change. And I only market my keynotes to the top 10 at-risk occupations for suicide.
Oh,
which
are
construction, mining, excavation, agriculture, attorneys, dentists, veterinarians, physicians, and first responders.
Dentists?
dentists, veterinarians, and physicians roughly have the same suicide rate. And if you'd like to know why I think that is, they now all three come out of professional school. 4 out of 5 of them come out of professional school with $500,000 in student loan debt before you open a practice. And so suicide is not the main issue. It's stress. Financial stress leads to mental and physical stress, which leads to heart attack, stroke, high blood pressure, depression, suicide.
See, this is when you try to apply just straight logic. I would say physicians and vets make all the sense in the world, because there are vets go into it thinking they're going to save a lot more animals than they end up euthanizing, and it's the other way around. I mean, you see a lot of awful things with veterinarians, and you must really care about animals if you become a vet. And that must be hard. Doctors obviously see some real wild shit, but dentists like, I just can't deal with any more cavities. But it's a financial burden.
Yeah, it's a financial burden, and for physicians, there are very few hospitals that actually report the number of suicides physicians on their staff. What you'll see is he died suddenly. Really? Any idea how? Because no hospital wants to lead the league. Because, especially when you're a resident or an intern and you're working umpteen hours, and you have lives in your hands, and, you're not getting enough sleep, and you're drinking too much coffee, and to get to be a physician or a veterinarian or a dentist or an attorney, it's the Hunger Games. You need to graduate top something of your high school class to get into a really good college. You need to graduate top of your class in college to get into a really good, professional school. And there's only so many spots, and the pressure's on. And so it's
That's interesting. I recently talked to one of our clients is a hospice, and they were saying that people don't go into hospice early enough. They wait until they have 48 hours to live.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why is that? Is it because the patient just has hope? And she said, yes, but also doctors have hope. And you've got to consider doctors are type A personalities. They do not fail. And admitting that their patient has to go to hospice means that they failed to some degree. So they would rather try absolutely everything before finally giving up, which makes sense. I mean, it doesn't probably benefit the patient, but interesting.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the numbers, that the majority of money that people spend or is spent on them for healthcare is in those later years.
Right. You're familiar, I assume, with the suicide paradox, the idea that countries hit a certain socioeconomic level in the plus, and then suicide skyrocket. Have you heard this thing?
No.
So affluent countries, once countries hit, again, a certain GDP, suicides tend to go up, and they speculate that's because, and so this ties into the idea that some of the happiest countries in the world have high suicide rates.
Mm-hmm.
So that they've speculated, and things that I've read have said that when everybody else is happy and you're sad, you internalize that, and you must be the problem. You must be the burden. So that explains certain high suicide rates. And the same thing with economic pressures. Like if everybody else is finally doing okay and you're still suffering, you're the problem. So it does seem to be this internalized thing. Again, from the normie's perspective, I would think if I was ever going to do it, it would be circumstantial. I lost everything. I just can't go on. I can't build it back up. I'm a failure. But it does seem like this. It's the internalization of the pain that seems to be the catalyst in a lot of cases. Don't you think?
Yes. And I mean, there are people who do it because it's situational. Like my friend who got fired, I was crushed, pardon the pun, but they didn't call me because he knew full well what I did for a living. I mean, I was a comic on a cruise ship, and he booked me on the cruise ship, and we worked together since he was a singer on the cruise ship. So he knew I lived with depression, and he knew that I spoke on it, and he didn't reach out, which, yeah. 2 out of 10 people are not ambivalent. They're not going to tell anybody. They're not going to reach out. They're just going to jump. Yeah. But yeah, if you're high school principal or elementary school principal, and you've been diddling one of the or more of the students, and you're looking at going to jail with a short eyes jacket, and you're going to be putting on the Kool-Aid, cherry Kool-Aid lipstick every night, then you might. I think I'll just check out.
That makes sense to me. So there's just so much the numbers are fascinating. The Werther effect? Have you heard of the Werther effect?
The candy?
Probably, yes. If you eat Werther's, you want to kill yourself. So this was named after Goethe's 1774 novel called The Sorrows of Young Werther. Evidently, it was published, and then there were a wave of suicides across Europe. And we know that this happens with celebrity deaths, or if local newspapers publish a story about a suicide, local suicides tend to skyrocket. Robin Williams in 2014, there was a 10% increase in suicides worldwide after Robin Williams. In Netflix's 13 Reasons Why, which came out in 2017, youth suicide rates, which is between the ages of 10 to 17, rose 29%. Because there was a show where I believe the star kills himself, herself. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, does it make it legitimate? Does it make it? They say, with like a high school cluster, suicide cluster. Is it because the person who died by suicide gets all sorts of attention, and it's all about attention, or did they look and see, well, he did it, I can do it, or I'm not sure what the causation is.
Well, the speculation is that it normalizes suicide as a response to distress. Vulnerable individuals may identify with the person in the story. It increases awareness of methods, and it can glorify or dramatize the act, which I think makes a little bit of sense.
I'll buy all that.
It's just so bizarre. I think the juxtaposition between a certain percent of humans really trying hard to stay alive, and then the certain percentage of humans who want they're not particularly interested in trying that hard to stay alive. I mean, it's just being a human myself, I think. It just comes across as so goddamn interesting. I know I'm using that word a lot when it comes to a very dark subject, but
no, it is. And in part for people who are left behind, it's lost survivors guilt. Why didn't I notice? Why didn't they come to me? Why, and why would they do that? Well, and because, you wonder, I mean, didn't they know that was it? That's the end. You're done.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you know the countries with the highest suicide rates? I looked this up too.
No, I do not.
Okay, I'm going to tell you. I can't pronounce some of them because I think Lesotho, Lesotho, I don't know, but it has double second place. So 87 suicides per 100,000 people. This is a country in Africa. They speculate it's driven by social instability, poverty, and a lack of mental health infrastructure. Second is Guyana in South America. They use high levels of pesticide use for suicide attempts. There's a cultural stigma around mental health. Eswatini, another African nation, heavily infected by the HIV crisis. There's stigma associated with it and high unemployment. Now, the next story we've all heard of, South Korea, which I lived in because I'm an army brat. So there's an extreme academic and work pressure. There's a lot of elderly suicide. There's a lot of cultural silence around depression. Lithuania, because of post-Soviet economic stress, alcohol use, and stigma. And then Russia, which Russia, I also believe, has the highest divorce rate, but they're blaming alcoholism, poor mental health care access, and social alienation in rural areas. Interesting, huh? Because these are spread out all over the globe. I mean, I granted there's two in Africa, but the other ones are South Korea, Lithuania, and Russia are surprising, I would say.
Yeah, well, not given the risk factors you mentioned.
Not given, but they're not exactly the same kind of Lithuania and Russia, but South Korea and Russia are very different culturally. It's very, in economically, they're very, I don't know. It's just the through line seems to be a stigma associated with it. But is there any country that hasn't stigmatized suicide and mental health? I mean, I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying it seems to be a thing.
Somewhere in Scandinavia, perhaps.
But even they are victim of the suicide paradox.
Yeah, Ned, I don't even. Yeah, I think there's still a stigma involved. The stigma involved with mental illness, the stigma separate with thoughts of suicide.
Right. The lowest suicide rates, I think, are interesting. Antigua, Barbados, Lebanon, Syria, Jamaica, and Kuwait. Now, they do say that countries like Syria and Lebanon, because of religious issues, don't report on suicides. So that information could be skewed. But it seems like Antigua and Barbados, less than a person a year. Not bad.
I've been to Barbados. It's my favorite Caribbean island. I can see why you.
I would never kill myself here. It's gorgeous.
Yeah,
the drinks. Oh my God.
The wind blows all the time. There's no humidity. It's outside the hurricane belt. I mean, and it was an English colony, so everybody speaks English. I mean, what's not to like about
who wants to die there? Nobody, obviously. Well, half a person a year, but you can't account for everything. United States ranks 32nd. Now, keep in mind, there's only about 200 countries. That's not very good for the richest country in the world. Now you get into said, you know which states have the highest suicide rates?
They're in the suicide belt. Nevada, Utah, Wyoming.
Montana,
Yep.
Alaska.
And nobody can figure out why in the West, the far West, why is that? They thought maybe it was altitude, so they control for altitude. And nope.
I'll tell you this. They're very red states. Here in the Blue Haven of Massachusetts, we love life, even though the weather's goddamn awful, the taxes are high, everyone's an asshole, the ocean is useless, but we live because we're happy socialist cunts. You know? Yes,
socialist, communists.
A social safety net makes us want to live life. Here's some other, and again, listen, I just, I know I'm hitting you with a lot of facts, but you're the suicide guy, so I got to bounce these off you. Very, very interesting. Antidepressants and suicide risk. SSRIs and other antidepressants can actually increase the risk of suicide in the first few weeks of treatment. They speculate because energy returns. And then you're like, oh my God, I can get out of bed. Maybe I should kill myself. But this energy returning thing, because they also say that spring is more dangerous than winter because of rising energy levels. That's crazy.
Yes. The rising energy levels, it increases the first several weeks because you take the SSRI and then it gives you the gumption to kill yourself, because otherwise it's hard to do anything.
That is so counterintuitive, because you'd think I have more energy. I'm going to clean my house. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to do something in Illinois. Oh my God, I finally have enough energy to get out there and jump. I bet it's just so conceptually bizarre. Then they said suicide peaks on a Monday. For all those like anti-Monday people, it says the shock of returning to responsibilities after the weekend can be enough to push you over the edge, which again, as a normie, I can understand conceptually. Over 90% of people who survive a suicide attack or suicide attempt do not go on to try again. Did you know that? 90?
I knew that I knew.
Oh, you're one of them.
Yeah.
It never occurred to you again.
It occurs. Yes. I have something called chronic suicidal ideation. Yeah. Which is not in the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of the Big Book of Diseases. It means for me and people in my tribe, suicide is always on the menu as a solution for problems large and small. My car broke down a couple of years ago. I had 3 thoughts, unbidden. 1, get it fixed. 2, buy a new. And 3, I could just kill myself. Yeah. That's chronic suicidal ideation. You're driving down the highway. You look up ahead. There's a bridge above, and you think, if I turn my steering wheel just a tad, I could hit the bridge abutment. That would be that. Or train coming. I can pull up on the tracks before the guards go down. It's just just the way my brain and my tribe's brain works. But I think in large part a coping mechanism when you're stressed.
I don't mean to smile throughout this, but it just makes me think of this Bill Burr bit where he talks about he said he was inviting to Thanksgiving or something in somebody's house and he committed to baking a pie. And he was just like, his options were figure out, he didn't know how to bake pies. It was like, I figure out how to bake a pie or kill myself. And right.
Yeah. And I'm a big Bill Burr fan. I couldn't believe he was that funny. I never heard of him. A friend of mine introduced me, check out YouTube. So I went on YouTube and the joke that got me to be a big Bill Burr fan was this one. My mother said, how come you can't be more like your father? And so I said, okay, fuck you, I'm leaving. I said, I'm in.
I don't want to pull one of these. I liked him before he was cool things, but I liked him before he was cool. Yeah. For context, my last MySpace profile picture was me and Bill Burr after a set that he did at the Comedy Connection in Boston. And he was obviously not famous enough to not take pictures with people, which he is now. Back to suicide real quick. Did you know nearly all survivors of Golden Gate Bridge jumps say they regretted the decision midair? That's to your point about having a lot of time to think about it on the way down. You have enough time to contemplate regret. I mean, that's pretty fucking nuts.
Yes. Most famously, Kevin Hines, survivor, jumped, and he speaks on suicide prevention. And he was living in San Francisco. And I think he was schizoaffective. He was hearing voices telling him to kill himself. And he thought, well, I don't know how. So a voice said, Google it. So he Googled, how do you kill yourself in San Francisco? And it gave a helpful list of bridges. So he picked the closest one. And he said to himself, I'm going to get on the bus. If anybody on the bus says anything like, "Are you okay?" I'll say, "No, I'm not. Please call the police. I'm suicidal." Nobody said anything. He gets to the bridge, same deal. If anybody says anything, "Are you okay?" I'll tell him no and call the police. And so he's standing there looking over the railing. Somebody taps him on the shoulder, and he thinks, "Oh, thank God." 2 German tourists. They said, "Would you take a picture of us?" So he did. And as soon as they turned their backs, climbed up on the rail and jumped. And of course, he talked about how he realized once he let go of the rail, as many people do who survive, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And then he hits the water. He hurts his back very badly, but he survives, and he pops back up. And all of a sudden, something large and aquatic bangs into his leg. And his thought is, sharks? There was no mention of fucking sharks on the Google. It was a sea lion.
Oh God. Yeah, but don't sharks eat sea lions? You better swim, baby, because they're coming.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, he said, as soon as he let go of the rail, and he's one of the very few that's, survived the jump.
I thought the story was going to end after the German tourist after the picture, and then he's like shaken back to reality. But no, he still doesn't, huh? See, that's see-through-itiveness that I admire. You know what I find? So the voices in your head thing, which I've always been obsessed with this idea. Why do the voices always tell people to do terrible things? The voices never say bake some cookies. Like every time somebody passes out or blacks out, they always kill their family. They don't clean the house. Why do you think the voices are such assholes?
I do believe it's cultural. There are countries where hearing voices is not a negative.
Oh.
Yes, and in this country there are groups where like meetup groups or Facebook groups where they have schizoaffective disorder, or they're schizophrenia, and they hear voices and they do not believe it's negative. And it's and they think some guy in the country somewhere, when they were asking about the voices, well, I'm never alone.
Right.
So yeah, so it's somewhat cultural, I think.
So their voice goes, "Call your mother," and you go, "Thank you, voice. That's nice of you for a change."
Well, one of my TEDx coaching clients, a physician who applied for a job at a hospital, and they asked her on the application, "Have you ever had any of these illnesses, mental illnesses, and have you ever taken any of these psychotropic medications?" Well, she had a check for both, but she thought if she did that, they wouldn't hire her. So she wrote no, stopped taking a medication, and within a couple of weeks found herself standing on the railing of a bridge. And a voice inside her head said, "Call your mama." So she got down off the bridge and called her mom.
So what is it? So there are good voices. Why just in the United States are our voices big giant assholes? Is it because Americans are big giant assholes? That seems to bears out, doesn't it?
Half of them are.
Which half do you think?
Well, yeah, that's, rather not say online, because that half is very violent.
No, but it's good. It's good for the comment section, and it's good for views. If you go hard after Trump supporters, I learned this last week. I went very hard, and oh man, the algorithm loves it. They loves it. So
here's my feeling on that. And I got in trouble on Facebook when he was elected the second time. I rarely comment on anything political on Facebook. It's just not good for business.
Yeah.
But when he got elected the second time, I wrote something on the order of, "Listen, I get it. I understand why the knuckle dragging, mouth breathing, throwback hillbilly types vote for the guy. What I do not understand is why otherwise intelligent people who have seen 4 years of him, did again." And I got lost friends.
It's good because here's the thing too. It's not half. It's a third and a third and a third, and the third that stay home, I throw them in with the other side. So it's really it's the 33% versus the 66%, because I thought the thing that was going to get everybody out there was losing Roe v. Wade. I thought, okay, they're going to finally something happened. Your apathy cost you the right to an abortion. You're not going to be apathetic anymore. But guess what? They're still as fucking apathetic as they were before. So obviously we haven't felt enough pain. So I hope that he does everything he said he's going to do. I hope he wipes out Social Security. I hope he wipes out Medicare, Medicaid. I hope tariffs are fucking batshit crazy, and I hope everyone suffers. We're all going to drown until you assholes get out there and vote.
Well, yeah, he won the election based on the cost of eggs, not the woman's eggs.
We're more concerned with omelets than we are with the unborn. What a time to be alive.
And being a political junkie and having a political science degree from University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, I know that for the last 25 years that, Rupert Murdoch said very honestly that the news the editorial should not fit the news. The editorial opinion should the news should fit the editorial opinion. Mm-hmm. And he said we need right wing TV. Nixon said, "What we really need is right wing TV." And when Rupert Murdoch came along, that's what happened. And the right wing is very monolithic. The left wing, the Democrats, are, they're like a big tent. But that's why there's only, I don't know, there may not even be left wing radio stations anymore. But there are, 600, 700, 800 right wing stations because the advertisers know that the audience is monolithic. If you listen to that station, then they know what you want, what you're going to buy, and it's the Democrats, the left. I'm sorry, the left is really horrible at messaging.
Yeah, well, the right knows enough to play into emotion. We try to appeal to logic, which is not as sexy, and we get and we self-immolate and we attack our own. Al Franken takes a picture like this and we kick him out of the fucking Senate. Matt Gaetz fucks a 14-year-old and they're like, well, maybe 14-year-old shouldn't have been so hot. So they form, shields around their people, even when they do the most vile, disgusting shit. And we can't wait to kick our own out of the thing because they're not blue enough. They're not left enough. They're not, they're not ideologically aligned with the fringe of our side. And it's cost us. It goes back to the Bernie or bust assholes. There's nothing the left likes more than fucking punching each other in the face, which is so goddamn stupid when we're supposed to be the smart ones.
Well, Al Franken, he should never have left. He should have just dug his heels in and said, throw me out.
Yeah.
But you see, back then, the Democrats, they're famous for this. We go high, they go low. And I go, they're down on the low road winning election after election after election.
Exactly.
So the black woman from Texas, she's a firebrand. She's no more decorum. She called Marjorie Taylor Greene a bad-bodied, bleach blonde bitch.
Yes.
Right. And I think that's what we need is we need to we played by the rules and then we didn't.
Can I say yes? You know what we do, and I've said this on the show before, but we have 4 people that I love on the Democratic side, but none of them are electable for half the country. So I love AOC, but we're not ready for a brown woman president. I love Pete Buttigieg. He's fucking razor sharp, funny. He'll eviscerate you, but we're not ready for a gay guy. I love Bernie Sanders, but he's 150 years old, and the word socialism is a non-starter. And then I love Cory Booker, but for some reason, he just doesn't connect. He just doesn't. The filibuster was great. He's got that little bit of crazy in him, but his campaign failed miserably. What we need, and Jesus fucking Christ, we're a country of 330 million people, mostly white, mostly men. We just need an average white guy who's willing to go on the attack, and we would crush. Fucking Trump called Ted Cruz's wife ugly. And Ted Cruz can't wait to drop to his knees in front of his tiny, shriveled orange dick. The same thing with Lindsey Graham, who he called one of the stupidest people he's ever seen. The same thing with Marco Rubio. He called him Lil Marco Rubio and insults his masculinity, and Marco drops to his knees. If you could eviscerate these people. You could dress them down in public. You could make them feel like, I know that they appeal to the tough guys, right? The fucking blue-collar pickup truck drivers, but these guys are little bitches, and they need to be called little bitches, and we won't do it because we're calling ourselves little bitches.
I think Hillary's biggest mistake, she was a horrible campaigner, great policy wonk, but her biggest mistake was she should have asked Bernie to be her vice president because he was a transformational figure. He
electrified a base. I'm exhausted. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm exhausted by you lose to a fucking game show host running a woman. So then you run a woman of color. I have no problem with that. I'm just telling you it's dumb strategically. Yeah. So you should have put Bernie because Bernie electrifies a base. Trump electrifies a base. Obama electrified a base. Clinton electrified a base. You have to electrify a base. You keep putting these fucking vanilla milquetoast nothings in front of this guy who again has some sort of idiot dumb charisma that appeals to people. I don't understand it, but it's there. And we have 0% of this. Well, and Hillary picked that Senator Kane, who was just essentially a sleeveless sweater with hair. Yeah. I mean, non-entity. I think because she didn't want anybody to, outshine her. And this is a thing I say on the show again. The left had the culture war won. We self-immolated by we can't offend anybody. Offending used to be the thing we did. It was our hallmark. If you look at, especially the 90s when we punched through and counterculture became culture, it was all offensive. And there's no more offensive fucking vile piece of shit than the guy in office. And it's that strategy seems to work to him. So like, when are we going to stop being afraid of people's feelings? When did people's feelings become paramount? War doesn't offend us. Disease doesn't offend us. Fucking starving children in the United States doesn't offend us. But if I use a word that you get mad at, oh my God, not allowed on the internet anymore. Fuck this shit, man. We're crazy.
Well, the last vile asshole in the White House, Nixon, you know, the young people rose up and protested the Vietnam War, which I'm sure probably brought it to an end sooner than it would have been.
100%.
And by the way, that's one of the reasons they believe that baby boomers have a high rate of suicide, because those people were going to change the world.
Yeah.
And you're now looking
ruined
back,
it.
Yeah, you're looking back, you know, you've been an insurance agent for 50 years. You know, you didn't really ever quite reach your potential of changing the world. So
not only did you not change the world, you made it fucking way worse. So it's a double whammy.
I've apologized to people, Gen Z, millennials. I'm sorry we fucked it up.
Yeah. I was born in 1980, so I think I'm technically Gen X, but you motherfucker, like, aside from like really good media, you know, I think really good movies and music and shit. We didn't really do much either. So
yeah. Well, now then again, you'll hear young people say, we never had it worse. Look, anybody across the street from you dig a bomb shelter when you were a kid? As a matter of fact, did any minister in your neighborhood? It was the minister in our neighborhood who dug the bomb shelter. I'm like, that shows a rather large lack of faith.
Oh yeah, listen, it's still all relative. There was a time in this world where you had to have 15 kids because half of them fucking died, you know. So, you know, there used to be a disease that would wipe out, you know, fucking the plague. You know, like all your friends and family would be dead. Those things don't exist. But there's no reason for kids on the street being hungry in the United States. There's no reason for an $800 trillion defense budget when there's issues that, you know, you could wipe out homelessness with a fraction of that. And the major problem with homeless people is the lack of homes. Like, I know it's mental. We could upstream problem solve instead of downstream problem solve, and it would save us a shit ton of money. We choose not to because the downstream is the sexy thing, and it seems like the easy thing, and it never works, which is why none of these problems ever get solved.
Well, we're saving all kinds of money on USAID, and, you know, children around the world are dying for lack of peanut paste, and HIV patients are dying for you know, we can treat AIDS patients around the world for 12 cents a day apiece.
But let me ask you this. You benefited because you got your lack of USAID check, right? You got that? We're all Americans are like, okay, well, the kids are dying, but at least I can buy a PlayStation. No, so we're doing awful shit with awful consequences, and there's no more money in my pocket. As a matter of fact, shit's worse for me too.
Yes, and about to get more expensive. And you know, I mean, it's I heard a guy talking about he sells toys, and he buys rubber ducks that look like Trump from China, and you know, it's about to go up 145%. And by the way,
wait a minute. I thought we weren't going to pay the tariffs. Don't the other countries pay the? That's how it works, man. Why are you lying to me in the American public right now?
And China makes fireworks. The majority of the fireworks we use in this country. So 4th of July is going to be a lot less, you know, bang and whiz this year because, you know,
hillbillies are going to have all their fingers to diddle their cousins with. So I guess there is a plus. At the end of the day, if you think about it like that, there's always a silver lining. Okay, let's go. I don't want to talk about suicide anymore necessarily, but I do want to ask you as a comic, what is the fucking tie with comedians being depressive assholes in their personal life? Why is there this through line where it seems like everyone's super depressed?
I think creative people in general, I do believe, are often depressed, and I believe have a higher rate of suicide. I believe that my mental illnesses, depression and suicidality, are just the flip side of my comedic ability, imagination, you know, creativity. So I think oftentimes they live in the same brain, and it's a delicate balance.
I think this is probably why I'll never really make it. I'm just not that fucked up. I need to get more fucked up. I think I'm too well adjusted to make a difference in this world.
Yes, and you are correct. I've had that thought myself, even though I live with those things. I thought, I'm just too well adjusted to be famous. There's no way I'm gonna.
It's really too bad, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I got a comic friend of mine who very funny. He opened up for the Blue Collar Comedy Tour all over the country, and he said to his dad, "Couldn't you just touch me once or twice in the wrong place when I was a kid to give me some?"
It just wasn't hot enough. That's the problem. I wasn't a cute enough kid. I'm a confirmed Catholic. There was plenty of times where, but never, not once.
Yeah, what's wrong with me? Why? I was an altar boy. What?
I think it was the pompadour. Nobody likes it. Can I give you my Mount Rushmore of comedians, and you tell me your opinion on whether or not they're like deeply fucked up?
Sure.
Okay. Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, Dave Attell, and Bill Burr. Do you think these four? I think the through line is that they're super fucking smart and also funny. I don't get a lot of darkness from them. None of them really talks about their personal life. It's more like I think they do what I like in a comic, which is they observe the world and then say really biting, funny, acerbic things about it. But none of them are like, no, I haven't heard any of those talk about their personal demons at all.
Yes, I think Chappelle probably has the most personal demons, I think, but
Right.
brilliant.
Yep.
I think I've never met a stupid comedian. I met some with absolutely no common sense, not enough to come in out of the rain.
Yeah.
But not stupid because it's too the brain is too much involved. I think I've taught comedy in the past. I tell my students, look, I can teach you to write it, I can teach you to perform it. I cannot teach you to process the incoming information the way my brain does. There's a reason when somebody heckles me that I heckle back and people go, wow, how did you think that up? I didn't think it up. I heard it when you heard it. I'm doing a show on Carnival, late show. And, the late show is full. The EMC comes out and says, look, you're at the adult show. If you're easily offended, get the fuck out now. So, I mean, it's a balls to the wall, nothing, almost nothing, no holds barred. And I pick up the microphone. The guy in the front row screams, you suck. I haven't said anything. And of course, everybody in the room heard it. You suck. And you can't let that go. And I have no idea where this came from. But I took a beat and I said, you fucking swallow. And I got a standing ovation in the first 15 seconds.
There you go. You won them over.
Yeah. I mean, but there's a reason that my brain works that way. And people ask, how'd you think that up? I didn't think that. It just kept screaming out of the back of my head. I have no idea where that came from.
Damn. From a muse somewhere. Do you think
it's magic. It's mentalism.
It is a little bit of mentalism. It's out there. Your brain is just attuned to the thing, I think. Where some people.
There's a guy that did the Platypus Man, Rich.
Platypus Man.
Oh, little short, dark-haired guy. Can't think of his last name. He shot himself in the chest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about $1 million in the bank or two.
Richard Denny?
Yes, Rich Denny. Getting ready to do another special. The Platypus Man was like one of the highest rated cable specials comedy ever. And getting ready to do another one. Had an acting career going, but that obviously personal, issues. What's his name? The guy heroin overdose on heroin. Really
Mitch Hedberg.
Yes, brilliant. Talk about a different thinker.
Oh, coincidentally, I watched his last appearance on Howard Stern recently, and it came 2 weeks before his death. I used that. Mitch is in my top 5. I had a cat named Mitch. I fucking love Mitch Hedberg. And so I think it's one of these. Okay, so back to the suicide thing real quick. I did read a study that came out of Boston College that explored why rich, successful people kill themselves, and it was the conclusion was something like it's sort of the light at the end of the tunnel syndrome. So if you're me and you're miserable, you think that if I only get this, it will cure my misery. So I work towards that. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. So what these people speculate is that these rich, successful people got to the light of the end of the tunnel. They have everything they dreamed of, and they're still miserable. So that goes back to the David Foster Wallace thing. It's like the building's on fire. I got a job. There are no good options. I have everything I want. I'm still sad. There is no cure here. So, I mean, that would sort of, I think, exploit. Like, I love Anthony Bourdain, obviously. This guy was a strung out line cook. He couldn't make rent. He didn't own a car. He writes an article that gets turned into a book that gets turned into 3 different TV shows. He's on top of the world. He's eating fucking noodles with Obama. And that isn't enough for a strung out line cook? Come on, man. What fucking more do you want? So then you go there. It has to defy logic. It has to be something that's unexplainable. Now, I do think his girlfriend had a little bit to do with it, but at a macro level, there has to just be some sort of kill switch, which is just like, I fucking can't do this anymore.
Well, he had underlying mental illness, I believe untreated, except by, having the
heroin,
busboy go score him some crack. The Kate Spade, underlying mental illness. Her sister said, you need to get help. She said, I can't go to therapy. It will ruin my happy-go-lucky brand. And then she killed herself with one of her own scarves.
Oh, Jesus.
Again, she had her own. She had worked at a big magazine, Mademoiselle or something, and she was head of a department. And I think she just thought, well, I'm not supposed to be reviewing other people's. I'm supposed to have my own fashion line. She built it. She sold it for millions. And
yeah.
Here's the upside of my fourth TEDx talk was "Suicide: The Secret of My Success." Dead man talking. Because it starts like this. What would you do if you knew for a fact you had nothing to lose, absolutely nothing to lose? What would you attempt? What audacious goal would you attempt? If you knew by not attempting it, you would literally die. That's where I was in January of 1984. I was married and miserable, selling insurance and miserable, not going to open mic night because that's not what my wife wanted me to do. And I realized I'm going to kill myself sooner rather than later if I don't make some changes. My second thought was, well, wait a minute. I could divorce my wife, quit my job, try comedy. I believe it will work. Have believed it would work since the fourth grade. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, hell, I can still kill myself. That's how I got into comedy.
Yeah, it's always an option. You know, it's wild too, though. I always look at people that on this other show I had, I've talked to people that were writers for shows that get, so you fucking did it, man. Like you got paychecks for writing jokes. Like that is an odd thing to have a dream at fourth grade and then to fucking eventually get paid for it. You're in rarefied air. Don't you think that's crazy? If you could take a step back and pretend you're a normie for a second. Like most fourth grade dreams don't come true, and yours did.
Yeah, I told a joke. The kids laughed. The teacher was so hysterical, she had to excuse herself to go to the teacher's lounge. And I saw her years later. I said, Miss Dark, why'd you go to the teacher's lounge? She goes, Frank, I was laughing so hard, I was afraid you would misinterpret it and it would hurt your feelings. Wow. And then she goes, what are you doing now? I said, stand-up comedy. She goes, duh. 12th grade, nobody had ever done the talent show doing stand-up. I did stand-up at the talent show and I won. Of course, I beat the accordion player and the folk dancers, but still, a win's a win. Yeah. And then my mom made me go to college. She goes, I don't care what you do when you get done. You can be a goat herder, but you're going to be a goat herder with a degree. So I did. And then I went, to the West Coast. And my first open mic night, halfway through my set, here's a voice in your head. Halfway through my set, I heard a voice say, you're home. Wow. And I've had that happen 2 other times when I knew I was in the right place at the right time doing the right thing. But you're right. It is rarefied to realize in the 4th grade and then eventually follow through.
That's, I mean, it's fucking great. And then you wrote, again, going back to the writing for the Tonight Show. That's a big fucking deal. The Tonight Show is a goddamn American institution. That's up there.
And it was never in my bio for the longest time or my intro. And a friend of mine goes, Frank, let me ask you something. Why is the fact you wrote for the Tonight Show for 20 years not the first line in your fucking bio and the first line in your fucking introduction?
Right.
Well, it will be from this point forward.
Yeah, that's not bad. They're kind of burying the lead there.
Yeah, because she said, it doesn't mean that much to you because, you're a kind, but to the world, that's a big deal. So
yeah, it's a big fucking deal. I mean, I let off with it. So I gave you my Mount Rushmore of comics. Obviously I'm just a layman, but who's your Mount Rushmore of comedians?
Well, top 2, Bill Burr and Jimmy Carr.
Oh, wow. Okay.
From Great Britain.
Very familiar.
Yeah, brilliant. Just filthy.
He is brilliant. He's super fucking smart, intimidatingly smart. Yeah.
And his stuff's not particularly politically correct.
No.
I mean, he was talking to a friend of his. They were in Germany. His friend's German. He's visiting his friend in Germany.
Yeah.
And the German, they're having bagels. And the guy goes, how come you can't get a good bagel in Germany? And Jimmy Carr goes, whose fucking fault is that? Wow. Yeah, I mean, so those 2 guys, deceased Robert Schimmel.
Oh, yeah.
A very self-deprecating little nebbish fellow, So my daughter, they say, you can teach her sex ed or we can, just have to sign the form. He goes, well, she's 8 years old. I'll teach her, the sex ed. I'll teach her about the birds and the bees.
Yeah.
So I sit her down. We're talking about the birds and the bees. And my 8-year-old daughter goes, yeah, Dad, I get all that. What I want to know is, which finger do you shove up the guy's ass when you're blowing him?
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So Schimmel, although deceased,
Yeah.
would be the third, the fourth. Gosh, that's Kathleen Madigan.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's she's not like the others.
no, but she's not like not like a classic female comic. Hers is like guy comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's three of us walking down the street because we're working a gig in wherever it was, and Kathleen gives a panhandler $5, and the other comic says to her, "Kathleen, he's just gonna blow it on cigarettes and beer." She goes, "Like I'm fucking not."
Yeah. So this begs the question of mine, which is when you have guys like Jimmy Carr and Bill Burr, who are and then you mentioned Jesselnick early on,
Yeah.
these guys are the antithesis of corporate comedy. But you found that in corporate comedy, it's much more lucrative, and I would imagine you don't have to grind it out on the road as much. You must make, because you love these guys, you must make a conscious decision to clean up your act. It's not like you're a clean act. You're not a clean comic at your core. Like I would say Jeff Foxworthy probably doesn't love those guys. He's a traditionally clean comic, but your core sense of humor looks like it skews the other way. And then you must have to structure your act around getting a check at the end from a corporation. Yes.
No, actually, I tried a dirty comedy for a little while, and I'm in Vegas. And I did my set, and this old comic comes up. He's wearing, the Vegas tuxedo on. He's performing at one of the whatever around near us, and he goes, "Hey kid, you need to drop the dirty comedy. You don't have the face for it." And he's right. I don't have the. I mean, I enjoy it. The dirty jokes just occur to me. I mean, I have to. Clean jokes take time. Dirty jokes, mean jokes. I'm on a carnival. I'm on a carnival ship. I'm half awake, having my coffee yet. I'm walking across the Lido pool deck toward the Lido buffet. There's a kid coming toward me, and he must like 300 pounds, 3 feet tall, 3 feet wide, and he's got a tray full of breakfast, one set of silverware. And I look at that, take all that in, and he's wearing a shirt that says WWJD. What would Jesus do? And my thought was he'd have a fucking salad. That just popped without coffee into my head. The dirty jokes just occur to me.
Jesus was ripped. Yeah. So have you ever offended anybody? Like, because you must play it pretty clean. The thing, going back to being offensive, the thing at a corporate gig is you don't not offending people is paramount. Is it not? Don't they just want somebody to get in and out, a few chuckles and no problems?
Yes. They don't want you to tear the roof off the place. They just want you to have a decent show and nobody get offended. And occasionally, because I was charging $5,000 for corporate comedy for 45 minutes. And I've got purist friends, comics. You sold out. Yeah, I'm a whore, but I'm a high price whore.
Right.
If they push back on my $5,000, we're paying you $5,000 for 45 minutes of just jokes. No, you're paying me for 7 years of beer bars and pool halls and honky tonks and drunk idiots screaming, "Tell us some jokes we can dance to."
Yeah.
You're not paying me for the jokes I tell. You're paying me for the jokes I don't tell and the wisdom to know the difference. You're paying me bottom line, so when I get done with my job, you still have a job.
Yeah.
So that's why they pay me. I speakers bureaus call me. Frank, got a new client. They want a comic. We need somebody we can trust, because a comic, if it's not going well, a friend of mine called me and he said, "Frank, I want to book this comic. It's a corporate gig. He tells me he can do clean." I go, I'm sure he can, Jeff. But here's the problem. If something goes wrong and they're not responding, he's going to pull the ring on the dick joke parachute.
Right.
And so Jeff called me after it was over and he goes, "Frank, oh dear God, I'm watching him and it's not going well." And he says, "I swear to God, I can see him reaching." And I'm at the back going, "No, fucking no. Poof." And he had to get the money back.
See, so they're paying you $5,000 to make sure they don't get sued, which is nice. And you're not going to get them sued.
Yeah, you got to be HR friendly, family friendly. Yeah, I mean, I can push it a little bit once I'm in the middle of my act. I can lean over the line a bit. Just can't jump over it.
I like that phrase, the dick joke parachute, because I do that a lot in my personal life. I've figured out, like, if I'm not doing well, we're all going down.
In comics, people ask me would I manage comics. I'm suicidal already.
Yeah.
I booked a comic into a Rotary gig. I said, "Look, you can't use the F word." Okay.
Right.
So I get a call from the guy from the Rotary Club who books the speakers. And he told me, your friend said motherfucker. And I saw him and I said, dude, I said you couldn't use the F word. He goes, I didn't use the F word. I said motherfucker. Oh,
Totally different. Totally different. Yeah.
Oh, Rodney Carrington.
Oh, yeah. All right.
I've worked with him as well. Matter of fact, we were doing New Year's Eve at the Comedy Zone in Charlotte. It was third show. Rodney had been doing shots all night. We're standing next to each other as the midnight comes. I'm standing there because I don't want to be near anyone. I don't want to kiss anyone or have to turn them down or whatever. And we're standing there. And next thing you know, he's got me bent over backwards like a scene from the end of the war in 45. Yeah. And his tongue is in my mouth. He's not gay. He was just drunk.
I drink a lot. I've never been that drunk.
Yeah, maybe
there's something going on down there. Speaking of which, do you drink?
No. I don't, because I have a kind of an addictive personality. A, yeah. B, alcoholism runs rampant in my family. The joke I wrote was most of my relatives can't pass the first question on the roadside sobriety test, which is, would you please step out of the car? And when you're doing comedy, either the drinks are free because people are sending them to you, yeah. or cheap. And I tend to overdo anything that's free or cheap.
Right.
What I like to do though is if I said, look, if they want to send me shots, put ginger ale in the shot glass. And so I've been on stage where I've had 12 shots.
Wow.
And you can tell by the look on their faces. Why is he still standing?
You've got diabetes, but you're sober. So
yeah, and the cocktail waitress got a big tip, and everybody's happy.
Wow. Yeah, there's so many sober comics, I think, because eventually you probably have to become sober, because in that lifestyle, you're going out every night doing gigs, and then you sit down and you're in a bar. So I think it could be a problem quickly.
Well, and I've had other health issues. I've had 2 aortic valve replacements, double bypass, heart attack, 3 stents. And I am a master's bodybuilder. I know you can't tell by looking at me in my clothes, but I'm getting ready to do my 7th bodybuilding contest.
Jesus. And
it's natural. It's true natural. They polygraph you beforehand. They urine test you after, so you can't be juicing. And so I'd rather eat my calories than drink them.
Right.
And I really don't need another risk factor. It's
you don't. It seems like the world's out to get you. It's either God or the Matrix is trying to fucking kill you between all these things. And look at you. You keep fighting. You're fighting the good fight.
Yeah, it's and I've totaled a couple of cars. Just and here I am. And somebody said to me, being suicidal, you should take a resilience training. I said, look, the most resilient people I know are the ones that are most suicidal.
Yeah.
The only reason they're still here is they are that resilient. They should be teaching resilience, not taking resilience.
That makes sense. The other thing that makes sense too is, how I said I'm not fucked up enough to be super successful. I also don't have an addictive personality, and I think most comics do, which is, I think, probably why they get into drugs and alcohol. And you need to harness that somewhere else, and you've done it with bodybuilding, because to be a bodybuilder, you have to be a little fucking kooky and obsessed. Otherwise, you're not gonna, because you're competing with people that are kooky and obsessed.
And
I don't have that either.
And I'm cutting for my contest in September. So I'm doing 1,080 calories a day. I eat the same thing 3 meals a day. And people say OCD like it's a bad thing.
Right. It's really cheating, because the rest of us are fucking normal. And then the rest of you fruitcakes are out there doing wild ass shit. What do you, it's the hour, we got to go. What do you eat in a day? The same thing every day?
There's a Kind bar.
Yeah.
Two flavors, and it's 20 grams of protein. It's keto friendly, it's very low carb. Yeah. So 20, and there's this protein drink. It's OWYN. Yeah. Buy it on Amazon. It's got 32 calories. So I drink 3 32 calorie, and then have 2 of the protein bars. That comes up to 1,080 calories a day. 5 days a week. You have to take a cheat day.
Yeah.
Because if you don't take a cheat day, like every week, your body begins to believe you're in some sort of starvation thing, and it holds on to weight.
I've heard.
So once a week, I double up on the calories just to remind my body, no, I can afford food. Yeah.
Oh man. So you're sad and sober, but you're ripped. So it's not bad.
Yeah. And someday I'm going to write a book called "Undress for Success: Look Good Naked."
Can I have you back on when that drops?
Yeah, because looking at me in clothes, you would not, how would you wouldn't know?
I've been picturing you naked this whole time, so I get it. I don't know if yeah. Well, I'm drunk, so I'm a little gay now, just like your friend. Oh, another callback. All right, so let's do this. I'm going to log off the official thing, but do me a favor, stick around in the green room, and then you want to tell people where they can buy your books and where they can see you and go to. I know you got a bunch of websites. You got a lot of things going on. You want to pimp yourself out for a minute?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I got 29,000 connections or followers, whatever, on LinkedIn. Not bad for a 68-year-old. And my website is mentalhealthcomedian.com. Mentalhealthcomedian.com.
Beautiful. So on Thursday, I had a woman that writes smut, reverse age smut novels. Today, a comedian that talks about suicide. Tomorrow, porn addiction, which I don't think is a real thing, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. So Frank, thank you again for being on. You were great. Do me a favor, don't go anywhere, but I'm going to log off. And listen, America, tune in tomorrow where I'm going to tell the guy that's a porn addiction specialist that it's not a thing. We all like to masturbate. We all do. Some people just a little bit too much. Still not an addiction. Goodbye.